In the wake of the Black Death, the weight on the farmer's shoulders grew heavier still. While they struggled to scratch a living from the soil, the tax collector's knock came without mercy. On days when the distant church bells rang out, the harsh reality of survival felt even more overwhelming. At the local market, anger pushed to the brink erupted among the peasants. In the center, a determined young woman raised her voice before the tax collector, while onlookers stood torn between fear and indignation. Even the king's banner, flapping in the wind, seemed to tremble at the authority now in question. A lopsided scale weighed down by clients on one side and barely enough grain on the other. In this dim space, peasants crouched in darkness, their hopes dimming with every creak of the balance. It was obvious that they were nearing a breaking point. Grouped in a worn circle, their tattered cloaks pulling close against the chill, the peasants turned a plaintive gaze toward the Lord's banner. Dark clouds loomed, and a raven's cry echoed across the empty field, signaling the prelude to imminent rebellion. At last, their long-suppressed fury erupted. In a modest village square, the peasants brandished their tools as weapons, driving the tax collector backward as his ledger slipped from his grasp. The deep resentment that had simmered for so long ignited like wildfire. Like a raging inferno, the rebellion's fervor, born in small hamlets, threatened to engulf all of England. Through the tongues of flame overtaking the map, the peasants' rallying cries echoed far and wide. Amidst the glowing embers of burning rooftops, the peasants' anger only intensified. Against the dancing shadows cast by firelight, a young boy's eyes shone with both terror and fierce determination, evidence that real change was brewing within every individual. No longer were the peasants' grievances confined to meager villages. The fractured crown, strewn among scattered coins and broken farm implements, foreshadowed a direct blow to the king's power, and this was only the beginning. In this moment, a figure named Wat Tyler gathered the peasants' voices into one. His resolute gaze seemed to kindle a spark, and the crowd replied in unison, their roar echoing across the fields. Under Tyler's banner, the peasants slowly found their strength. Like morning light cutting through storm clouds, hope guided their steps onward. Their fireside talks formed the ideological backbone of the revolt. As the campfire glowed on their faces, one could sense a flame of determination ready to reshape their world. Calloused hands clutching old staffs still poor in material means, their resolve was unwavering. The peasants' unity shone like a beam of light, knocking at the door of a new era. At last, they advanced upon London, led by Wat Tyler. This was no mere gathering, but a tidal wave poised to shake the very foundation of England. Their banner, emblazoned with a broken chain and a plough, proclaimed an end to bondage and a start to self-determination. From children to the elderly, all marched with one voice, longing for a new tomorrow. The fervor spread across England like a chain shattering into fragments, forecasting a wave of upheaval about to take solid form. At the city gates, the peasants stood brimming with both hope and steeled nerves. How their march would end, history alone would soon reveal, as time's relentless gears turned faster than ever. Finally, Wat Tyler stood before the king, voicing the peasants' hopes and anger in person. His simple yet forceful words shook the very atmosphere of the regal court. Their gazes locked. The hall fell into an austere silence charged with intensity. On one side stood the authority of the crown, on the other, the people's seething indignation, a clash so profound that history would record it as one of its defining moments. But fate proved merciless. The moment Tyre fell, the peasants' dreams seemed to falter under a blade. The king's men acted with brutal swiftness, overturning the truth in a single devastating instant. A shattered crown and scattered drops of blood laid bare the revolt's abrupt end, yet that tragic finale did not entirely seal the fate of the peasants' cause. After the revolt was crushed, its embers left deep scars in the villages it scorched. By ruined cart, one woman tried in vain to cling to any trace of hope now gone. Those who survived were forced once more to bow before royal power, yet within their downcast eyes lingered a spark not yet fully extinguished. Broken chains beside an idle plough symbolized both defeat and the unbreakable spirit of laborers. Like the lone bird poised to take flight, a new dawn was merely biding its time. Yet the peasants' anger had not been in vain. Shaken by the uprising, the crown and nobility began to sense fear, prompting the first small steps toward reform. Today, the name Wat Tyler transcends time, standing as a beacon of justice and freedom. His resolute figure still lights a fire within many hearts. In classrooms around the world, the Peasants Revolt is no mere footnote in history. Its lessons on human rights and equality continue to resonate deeply. The seeds of resistance sown back then became hopes for a new era. Like a broken chain sometimes reforged into something stronger, their spirit has often become a rallying point for progress. Nor is Wat Tyler's memory locked in its own era. In the chants and marches of today's protests, his cry echoes on, transformed for new generations. Eventually, England rose once more on the path to rebuilding after the Peasants' Revolt. Laughter on the town square signaled a shift and awakening in the aftermath of hardship. The flame of history rarely dies out. It stands as a bridge between past records and the dreams of tomorrow, illuminating the path we must take. Even now, across the world, banners fly and voices rise in protest, echoing the spirit of that era's peasants. Their determined cry lives on, beyond any boundary of time or place. The struggle for liberty and justice has always left scars upon human history, and yet also a legacy of hope. Just as the crimson sun rises again each day, so too does our will to stand up and rebuild.